I'll kick it off, Doc.
Appreciate you.
Grand Architect of the Universe, thank you for allowing us to enjoy this day. Please preside over this meeting and let us be productive. And after we depart this meeting, please give us safe travels to enjoy our day and to appreciate one another with friendship and brotherly love. Amen.
Amen. Amen. So, good afternoon, gentlemen. Can everybody hear the audio clear? Because mic keeps cutting in and out for me. If you can hear it clear, just give me a thumbs up or say yes or no. Good to go. All right. Hey,
Yes.
today, gentlemen, we're going to go through some insightful understanding. And this is going to be more of an academic understanding in terms that we can truly understand. And we're just talking about organizational behavior and management as it truly regards to Royal Arch Masonry. More of the pillars of leadership, harmony, and service. And I'm Companion Random. All right. So now the purpose-driven organization is really simple. And we'll get deeper into it, but values based on volunteer leadership because our leadership is truly volunteer, right? At times that we get told to put in leadership positions, but we volunteer to do it a lot of the times. And I'll talk about that a little bit more here shortly. But then we think about things like service, light. What do you most desire? More light, right? And then moral development. And then our influence over authority, because that comes into play. We talk about our rank, and that'll come up here shortly. But the purpose driven, as we break it down a little bit further, like Royal Arch Masonry, its values is based. It's a volunteer organization, nonprofit driven enterprise. But we think about things that this just changes how management behavior work, and we'll get into the discussion between what's the difference between leadership and management, because there is a distinct difference, but they're both needed. But some of the core drivers, as we can see here, service, light, moral development, and tradition and ritual. But then we break it down even further. We want to focus on things like brotherhood and volunteer commitment. I want you guys to understand that leadership success, it depends more on influence and example more than authority. Because our rank doesn't give us authority. It's going to cause us to be more servant driven. Now, the organizational behavior as it regards to chapter behavior, temple or council behavior, or even lodge behavior. Motivation through meaning and recognition. Let me be very honest with you. As leaders, we have to realize that the people underneath us and that we're responsible for are more driven by recognition than money. And I know that sounds crazy, but scientifically proven that recognition, especially in front of their peers, means more to them psychologically. If we think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the first thing is safety. Within that safety, filling those basic understandings are filled. If we get those basic fundamentals filled and then that recognition comes, they perform at a higher clip. This is scientific. This is academic as well. But then culture shaped by ritual and tradition. If we think about Peter Drucker, the father of modern business, he says culture eats strategy for breakfast. What does that mean? If our culture of our organizations are very strong, united, and unified, then our organization will thrive. Just the opposite is true if our cultures are broken. So culture shaped by ritual and tradition, these are the pillars, the ritual, our ritualistic work and tradition, because as we do the ritualistic work, the candidate then remembers the quality of the ritualistic work. We're shaped, that's the tradition of our organization. But then this goes into our group dynamics and harmony, which we'll talk about conflict here shortly. But OB, our organizational behavior, focuses on how companions think, how they feel, and how they act within the organization. Some of the key organizational behavior factors in Royal Arch Masonry: motivation. So motivation really is companions are motivated by meaning, recognition, fellowship, and most importantly, purpose. Because remember, it's a volunteer organization, so there's no pay. So we have to be really creative of how we recognize fellowship and get our companions to the next level. It's also driven by culture. So when we talk about culture within Royal Arch Masonry, we talk about ritual, symbolism, and tradition as it strongly shapes our behavior. The group dynamics are not even the group thinks, but the group dynamics is the harmony, the respect for the rank. As we think about past high priests, past grand high priests, and things like that, how do we respect those things? But I caution you that respect is earned, not given. So just be conscientious of that piece right there. But we also think about the fraternal bonds affect our participation. What are our bonds? What are the bonds we have with certain brothers and companions? That affects our participation as well. Now, generational differences, here's where it gets sticky because we have our seasoned members, right? And then we have our younger members. The newer members may seek relevance and engagement. Senior companions and senior brothers, they value continuity and protocol. But let me be honest with you, those two things have to coexist. But we keep gangbanging on each other and think that one is stronger than the other, and it's not. Now, here's where the light comes on. This is the aha moment. Leadership and management. Just because you're in a management position, and remember, this is organizationally driven, doesn't mean that you're a leader. But let me have someone come off mute real quick. Tell me the difference in your words. What's the difference between a leader and a manager? Anybody can come off mute and tell me.
Dr. Randall, I feel like a leader creates more leaders and develops more leaders. As far as management is concerned, managing is really just putting things in place and watching it flourish.
Okay, that's fair. As we look at it here, and we'll drive it down a little further to drill down on it. Leadership, right? Leaders are visionaries and they inspire. And let me be honest with you. You can't have sight without vision. Why do you think that organizations have vision statements? Think about that statement for a second. But leaders also are the moral example, not by saying something, but by how the way they carry themselves. Now, management, they plan, they execute, they have structure and compliance. Simply put, leaders inspire, managers maintain. All right. So leaders inspire and managers maintain. And we can think about it even a step further. Leaders will write policy, management will enforce policies. But understand this, gentlemen, you need both to coexist to make your organization stronger. Both are essential, but they obviously are not the same. Leadership with the vision and the influence, right? The leaders inspire the companions to attend, to serve, and most importantly, to grow. And then that leader models Masonic virtues by his or her actions, right? Preserving harmony and moral, right? They guide the chapter's long-term vision because a leader is a visionary thinking not just about today or tomorrow, but they're thinking about the organization 5 to 10 years from now. How can we grow? Now, the manager, that maintainer, they bring that structure. They want to make sure the structure is implemented and executed, most importantly. They do the planning, the convocations and degrees, coordinating officers, right? Committees. We think about these junior officers and these appointed officers, managing time, finances, logistics, ensuring compliance of the grand chapter. This is what the manager does. But the takeaway from that slide is there's a difference between leading and managing, but you need both to coexist. Now, here's where we get caught up, gentlemen: authority, rank, and most importantly, respect. And let me ask this question before I go further. Would you rather be liked or respected? Anybody can come off mic, mute and answer that question. Would you rather be liked or respected?
Respected.
Respected. Why is that, if you don't mind me asking?
As you said, leaders groom, mold, inspire. Managers are more mission oriented. When you inspire people, when you groom people, it naturally builds that trust, empathy side of house, thus
Mm.
respect.
Gotcha. And respect, again, as I said in the first couple slides, is earned. It is not given. It's not something you can ask for. It's not something you can buy on Amazon. You have to earn it. And if you have that moral compass as a leader, it will be organic that you earn it. But let me digress and get back to this. Authority, rank, and respect. We think about rank as service, not control. I may have pissed somebody off when I just said that, but we think about rank as service and not control, and you'll see why here shortly. Now, we also correct privately and praise publicly. There it is. When you're doing your ritualistic work and we correct the word publicly, what do we do to that brother's confidence? Somebody come off mute and tell me.
Destroys it.
Destroys it. You literally obliterate it, right? You take that person and you make them think all the work that they put in was for naught, right? But we praise public and correct privately. A lot of us here are private military, and this is one of the things that all of us were taught. Always correct privately, privately, and praise publicly. We don't want to diminish the brothers or the companions' confidence. How do we build that morale? How do we encourage these brothers to come back to the meetings? We have to praise publicly, give them their flowers. Remember, I talked about the recognition on slide 2. Now, officers are stewards. They're not bosses. They're just stewards. What does the Bible tell us? To whom much is given, what? Much is then required. So you are a steward of what was given you. You're not a boss of what was given you. You didn't create it. You just inherited it. Now you have to treat it with respect. Again, hence the word respect, pun intended, to make it flourish. All right. Now, Raw Arch Masonry operates within a formal hierarchy. There's hierarchies in all of our rank structures within Masonry as a whole. But authority is a moral compass. It's not coercive. Here's some of the best practices and tools I can give you guys, right? Use your rank to serve, never to dominate. Encourage participation while honoring protocol. We want to encourage everybody to participate, but we have protocol in place for a reason so that we maintain that reputation and that respect that we can earn. Correct privately again, praise publicly. Remember, officers then again are stewards of what they were given. They're not bosses. Respect, flows in both directions. It flows up and it flows down. Now, motivation and engagement. Here's where we struggle sometimes. We struggle a lot of times. All right, meaningful roles. Do we put people in meaningful roles to make sure that they get the best out of themselves and the best for their organization? The answer is no, and it's an obvious no. It's a rhetorical question. But then recognition and service, where we at with that, and we'll figure that out shortly. And then fellowship and education. This is where we fall flat on our face. The fellowship and education. We think coming to a meeting satisfies a check in the block, but what about do we do fellowship afterwards? And do we do education? Again, another rhetorical question, and the answer is a vehement no, right? Because participation is voluntarily. It's a volunteer organization, right? Engagement must be intentional. We have to intentionally engage with companions and brothers alike. Now, what do effective motivators do? They're meaningful they serve in meaningful roles for companions, recognition of service, informal and informal. They're very clear communicators. You have to be clear communicator, so people understand what you expect. And then you know that they have it. It's a two-way street. We're on the same page at this point if we clearly communicate our purpose. Fellowship beyond the ritual. The ritualistic work can come to a meeting. If we fellowship afterwards and we break bread and we're tighter outside of our chapters, we're going to be more succinct and synergy driven inside our chapters. So again, let me say it again. If we're tighter outside of our chapters through the fellowship and our organizations, our lodges or whatever, we'll be tighter within our chapters. But that comes through things that's beyond the ritual. That's education and service and social bonds. This is how we build that synergy within our organizations. But what do we do as leaders and as managers? We overload the same companions, right? That Paleo rule. What do I always hear? The faithful few, right? Why do we do that? Somebody come off mute and say, why do they do that? Leaders, because a lot of us are leaders out here. Why do we do that? Why do we overload the same companions?
Because they're dependable, more apt to knowing what they're doing instead of those guys teaching, grabbing somebody, one of these younger brothers by the hand or by the collar and taking them along with you so they can see how things operate, learn how things operate. That's one of our faults.
It is, and I'm glad that you were honest. And we got to be honest with ourselves. They're dependable. But guess what, brothers? That brother that was one or two brothers that we think are super dependable. What we're not thinking about is burnout. Remember what I said? I said about 5 times already. This is a volunteer organization. We're volunteering our time with no pay. So we have to optimize each experience with these companions and brothers alike. But overloading them burns them out. So then if we never train, we talk about social events and education and the ritualistic work. If we never train these brothers, which you'll see coming up shortly in about 3 slides, then we're going to burn said brothers out, and then our organization is going to continue to die. We have to get away from public criticism too and political maneuvering within our organizations. That is freaking killing us. That public criticism and political maneuvering within our organization is killing us. If we do our work organically, it'll manifest itself organically. What do I mean? If we just do our work and our moral compass is true north, we don't have to worry about all this other stuff. I can tell you personal examples, but the short version is I've been through some things in the last few years where I was publicly criticized and I was down for a little bit, kept my moral compass north, put in the work, and got back on track. Now, communication and conflict. Here's what we need both. Let me be honest with you. We do need both. And here's why. Communication and conflict, it has to be respectful, timely. That's communication. Now, we have to address conflict early. We can't let it fester. If we let it fester, what happens? People build callous. They build just deceit and resent right? But we have to, because all of this is to preserve the dignity and harmony of our organization. Now, if we think about just the word harmony, it's a cornerstone, but conflict happens. We have to let conflict happen, period. And if some people don't like conflict, but as a leaders, you're going to piss people off and people are going to piss you off. And you have to understand that conflict is part of a healthy relationship. And I know that sounds oxymoronic, but it's not, because you need conflict to understand how do we get better. because everything's not going to be peaches and cream, and we're not going to wear Burger King hats and walk out skipping and holding hands, right? We have to have that conflict to understand what we can do and what we can do. But then we have to mitigate all of these instances early and often, right? Healthy Masonic communication has to be direct, it has to be respectful, and most importantly, it has to be timely, but it needs to be grounded in shared values. Our communication must be grounded in our shared values of what we are and who we want to become as a chapter, as an organization. But we need to focus on the issues, not the personality. So if something happens, focus on that issue. Don't focus on that person's personality because you don't like them personally. Personality stays in your car or you're on the bus with you or the train with you. However you got to your meeting, personality stays there. We need to focus on the issues at hand and get away from the personalities within these organizations. Now, conflict resolution principles: address the concerns early, like it says there. Address conflict early. Seek understanding before correction. Use wise counsel. When they say past high priests and past masters give wise counsel, be careful when you use those words because you have to actually apply those things. Those aren't just words to be used. We want to always protect the dignity of the companions. And then we handle conflict because conflict helps us strengthen our organizations, strengthens our chapters. Now,
Hey, Dr.
ethics.
Randall.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Hey, before you get into that, this Sean, I just wanted to make sure. Hey, first of all, good afternoon, everyone. I want to convey my thanks for y'all for getting on and having this great session and everything that's going with it. I'm down in Tennessee, and I had just left for Gospel Fest, but what I wanted to speak on right quick, Raul, was everything you are talking about right now, as far as what leaders do and pushing organizations in versus managing things, is what I am continuing to see and what I saw this whole weekend. So I just want to say your podcast today is definitely on point. I have to drop off right quick, but I wanted to make sure you know that everything that you and Greg and the brothers are talking about is definitely, you can see it in the work that we are doing, and it's relevant because what you are talking about today with leadership, good leadership, is what I have witnessed this weekend. So, all right, bro, I got to go, but I wanted to make sure that I participated as best I could today.
No, it's all good. Hey, brothers, Burley, text me. Can you guys see the slides?
Sure, you're not sharing.
All right, let me stop this. The whole time it wasn't sharing?
Yeah, we haven't seen the slide yet.
Oh,
Yeah,
all
sir.
good. Y'all
You was doing a
yeah,
great job of speaking to it though.
Oh, all good, man. All
Great
good.
job describing.
You're good. Continue.
Y'all good now with the slides?
Yeah,
Yep.
we was good without her.
Oh, all good, man. All good. But the visual is better.
There you go.
All right. Yeah, y'all should have said something first slide, man. Don't let me keep going like that. So we just everything that I've talked about to this point, right? These are the slides: leadership versus management, right? Just giving you understanding, right? Authority and rank and respect, motivation and engagement, conflict and communication. This is kind of where we stopped off at, and the Grand High Priest jumped in, General Conference Grand High Priest jumped in. So is everybody tracking to this point? Hopefully I gave a vivid picture to just paint that out. Ethics and accountability, I believe we kind of went through, right? Understanding the integrity in action. This is actually the next slide that we're supposed to go into. So integrity in action, transparency and fairness. Chapter reflects leadership. If you have strong leadership within your chapters, your organizations, it reflects the leadership. It reflects the continuity. It reflects the culture of that organization. In Royal Arch leadership, it carries a moral compass. It carries a moral authority. But there are some real expectations, right? We need to be transparent in our finances and our decision leaders. We need to be transparent in our finances and decisions. That means that we need to have constant communication on what these things look like, so on and so forth, right? We need to be fair in our appointments and opportunities. Remember, I told you, get away from those personalities and that personality conflicts. As we're appointing officers, let me say this: what's best for the organization, not what's best for you. What's best for the organization. Just because you don't like a person personally, if they have the skill sets to push us forward, you have to take me out of it. And I'll give you an acronym team and why I say take me out of it. If you take me out of it, the organization is going to grow. That's leadership, right? We need consistency between ritual words and our daily actions. They have to be succinct. Our words, our ritual words that we use in the ritual have actual meanings. And then we have to live our daily lives by those words, right? That may have stung in somebody's heart today, but that's the reality of it. Don't fake it. If you're saying these words, they have meanings. You have to live by it. As a leaders, all of the leaders on this call, your moral compass has to be true north all the time. There's accountability without humiliation. That first lesson, I said it 1,000 times. That first lesson in masonry, it wasn't caution, it was humility. And then the higher we go in masonry, the more aprons and more gold collars we receive, we forget that very first lesson in masonry, which was humility by Boaz offering his left shoe. We got to go back to that. A moral compass has to swing back to that, pick up that mentality, and then move forward. The chapter reflects the characters of its leaders. That's the bottom line. Now, leaders, we have to develop future leaders. It is our moral responsibility to develop future leaders. How? Through mentorship, officer development, and leadership pipeline. Let's just kind of quickly pause. I want to hear a couple takes on how some of you guys are developing your leaders. And are you doing these things? Or are you doing other things? Just give some examples to both the YouTube audience that'll watch this video and to the brothers on here. What are some of the things you guys are doing? Let's get a couple intakes.
Okay, so Dr. Randall, good afternoon, big bro. So what
Hey.
I have done within Angel City was I paired every junior officer with a past master and every senior officer with a past master as well. So what I did was I asked brothers, what do they bring to masonry? And what are the steps that we can do to help you stay around and improve yourself as well as building up the organization? So that's the
I like
things
that.
I had done. And what I did was I slid my ego and everything back to the side and I asked brothers, okay, am I a good worshipful master or are you guys just putting me here because somebody's not ready? If that's the case, I need to step aside and reevaluate my whole thing. So that's the things that I'm trying to do. And then asking brothers, what do they actually want to do inside of this lodge? And it's just like what you were talking about. If we keep brothers engaged, everybody wants to feel like they're important. And so with their input and we actually applying it, now it seems like the lodge is getting stronger because of those things. And this is actually a good thing to do.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I'll definitely I'll get these slides out to the email group. But no, I appreciate that. Get one more intake. What are some of you guys doing? Get one more person's intake. And Alex, thank you because you're bridging some generational gaps. You're bridging the seasoned brothers and you're bridging the younger brothers together by pairing them up. What are some of you guys doing? One more input.
It's just as simple as having those conversations within your meetings, breaking down breaking down simply those broad explanations of masonry, doing, like I said, the time through your meeting, you break it down for Masonic education. You have that period to where you can have that intimate moment and have people, break down their walls and ask those questions without judgment. And then, the knowledgeable brother would hopefully answer that question without any judgment.
For sure. All right. Strong chapters as we think about it, and I appreciate those inputs, gentlemen. I really do, because it gives some different, I wanted to hear the variations. I want the companions to hear the different variations. In every chapter, we're all doing something different, but it is all trying to accomplish the same goal. If you think about it, Burley, whoever that is, mute him for me. Appreciate you. So as we mentorship and we do officer development, like LA 26 is doing, or the LA chapter is doing officer development and leadership pipeline. We have to develop a leadership pipeline because leaders, we're not going to be around forever. I know we think we're invincible, but God said the minute you are born, that minute you also begin to die. So you have an expiration. So we have to develop future leaders to maintain our organization. Strong chapters, they always plan beyond 1 year. Because think about what the incumbent leader does. He makes a trusted board. And a trusted board is only for 1 year if your bylaws say you serve 1 year. If it's for 2 years, the trusted board is probably for 2 years. But most people only do a trusted board for 1 year. Leaders, why are we not doing a trusted board that should be visionary out 5 to 10 years? Think about it. If we can plan that far out, how much more succinct will we be as far as the structure, the infrastructure, and the fervency of our organization? Right? The mentoring, we have to mentor junior officers. We have to explain the why, not the how. Leaders, we have to explain the why, not the how. But let me take that a step further. If you know your freaking why, then it's going to give you the how. But we explain why, we never explain how. But we never ask why you doing this or what's your why. And I've said this before. Go back to your organizations, your next meeting, and just randomly stand up for the good of the order and ask one or two brothers, what's your why? Why are you here? If they know their why, it's going to take them to the how, regardless of what's going on. All right. Now, Encouraging education and ritual proficiency. We do this and we create a leadership pipeline, not a power circle. When we're creating a leadership pipeline, we're not creating a clique. So, brother, stop doing that. Companion, stop doing that. We're creating a leadership pipeline out of power circle. Now, measuring the health. We can measure the health in a lot of different ways, but specifically, let's talk about engagement, retention. Quality of ritual is huge, and we undervalue that, right? And brotherhood. All right, success just is not just about attendance. Attendance is part of it, but it's not just about attendance and what the numbers look like. We look at things like engagement. What's the enthusiasm? What's the officer teamwork? Here's a big one. Success is measured on your retention and your progress. You can get 50 members this year, but how many of that 50 are you retaining? That's a question to think about. What's the quality of your ritualistic work in your education, like Brother was talking about? And then what's your sense of brotherhood and purpose? Now, we can measure chapters through non-financial metrics. Success isn't just about attendance, again, as we talked about, engagement, enthusiasm, also teamwork, retention, and progress, quality of ritualistic work. But success can also be measured by quantitative understanding. We said earlier, about 2 slides ago, when I actually started sharing, that we have to be transparent in our financial doings. In everything that we're doing, we have to be transparent in all things that we're doing. Now, just some closing thoughts before we get into the Q&A. You have to manage your chapters efficiently. What does that mean? That means you have to look at what's best for your chapter, what works for your chapter, know your brothers and your companions in that chapter, and then you have to manage them on an efficient basis to make sure that we're running smooth. Lead companions and heroines, because we anticipated heroines getting on, they didn't, that's fine. Lead companions and heroines intentionally. Leadership is an intentional act. Leadership is a verb, it's an action. We have to do that constantly, and we have to be very intentional in our leadership. How do we plan out? How do we strategize? Remember, leaders inspire and motivate, right? Now, leaders, I'll end with this, and this is the last slide before we get into the references and the Q&A. You have to serve your craft humbly. Remember, officers are stewards of what they were given. The Bible again tells us to whom much is given, much is required. Just because you elected by your craft, the democratic process of this, it doesn't make you bigger than the craft. I don't care if you're in the East or the Grand East or wherever in that chapter, whether you're elected or appointed, you are a servant of that position. And then you have to ask yourself, just because I'm in this position, you have to constantly ask yourself this one question. Am I a leader? Am I a manager? And then you have to know the difference. Based on today, I think we know the difference. Now, here's some of the references. What I want you to notice about the references, there are no Masonic references here. Look at the reference slide for a second. There are no Masonic references here. But how was it that I was able to take all of this academic information and transcribe it into organizational behavior for Royal Arch Masonry? Because they are the same. We don't talk about them in the same parallel, in the same paradigm, but they're exactly the same. Questions. This is our true Q&A portion. This is where I say we get funky. We ask questions. We ask the hard questions. We hold each other accountable, but we love on each other at the same time. So thoughts on the part of the presentation you actually saw.
Hey, Doctor, this companion Quinn. Just 2 points. I really enjoyed the fact how you highlighted conflict, and I believe conflict in any organization it can be healthy.
It can be.
It can be healthy, and I've noticed a lot of times, and you touched on it, that if a companion or brother makes a mistake, he is publicly criticized. I think it goes a long way if you take their brother to the side and had a conversation with him to correct him one-on-one. I think it'll be received a lot better. Part was when you touched on fellowship and education, and this just for me myself. I get tired of sitting in 12 meetings every year, just opening and closing. I think we had too many meetings. I think that we should reduce the meetings and be a little creative and do some fellowship and, during the meeting day instead of opening and closing. Still give lectures, still give some training and education. We can open 6 times a year and conduct our business. I think we would get a lot more engagement if we did that as far as for the meetings. But great lecture, Doc. Appreciate you.
Okay. And just understand, gentlemen, that if from a project management perspective, as I showed you, the references were not Masonic, but from a project management perspective, there is Stephen Tuckman talks about the different stages of team building, and it's forming, storming, norming, performing, and then adjourning. Now, in that storming phase, that's where the conflict happens. That's where we're trying to figure each other out, try to get our synergy together, so that when we move to the next phase, performing, that's the output. What are we putting out? So there's different books written on team building dynamics. So what else did you guys take away from today?
Well, I have one thing I want to add. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Oh, I finally got through. I was busting my behind trying to get heard. Now I can be heard. I'm excited. I missed a little bit, but I'm back. All right. Some of the details from the last couple of minutes, outstanding, and I really appreciate that. I can't wait to get a copy of this too, so I can go ahead and dig deeper into it. Thank you.
No problem. No problem. Yeah, we got some heavies on here, man. What did you guys take away from that, especially guys like Mr. Maxwell? You guys been around for a while and have had different examples. What did you guys take away from it? Because we talk about bridging those different generations. You guys come from a generation of different understanding of masonry. What do you guys think about that?
Here's my take on this. I like what you said when you spoke about, it doesn't matter where you sit. You got to keep in mind that when you were in that position, all the individuals that supported you while you were in that position. So once you come out, you pack your bags and leave, think about the individuals that supported you.
Mhm.
So you have to go back to the bottom and support these individuals that have become leaders in the same manner and fashion that they supported. So we gotta keep that going, because I think we kind of loses perspective on, once I've done my time in the position, then I'm no longer needed. You're always needed. You're always going to be needed.
Absolutely.
So that's what I'm taking away from all of this. And I like what you said about that, because I do that, like all leaders that came before me, I supported and I encourage them to come back. It's hard trying to get leaders that have served to continue to serve. So you have to be that example. Show these individuals that, okay, yeah, you once led, now you become a follower once again. So you support the individual and continue to support the individuals that supported you during your tenure.
Absolutely. And no, thank you. And let me tell you something about Mr. Maxwell. So I met him, I think it was last year in St. Louis, the first time I met you, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
well,
Because I was doing a
yeah.
lecture. I think we had seen each other maybe on some video calls, but I had never met you and I couldn't put a name with the face. And so I'm just letting the group know those words he just said were absolutely true. He walked in when I was giving a lecture last year in St. Louis, and he didn't know me and I didn't know him. And he was talking, I forget who he was talking to, one of the upper officers in the General Grand Conference. And after the lecture, you came up to me, so I don't know if you remember it, and you gave me some flowers, and it made me feel confident because I was in a room with a bunch of brothers I didn't know, first and foremost, and I was just doing what I would normally do, is just give a lecture. But you, as a senior leader, having been around for a while, instilled that confidence in me to say, hey, that was a hell of a lecture. And we talked a little bit, and I always remember that interaction. So brothers, just know that everything that Mr. Maxwell just said, he actually just did to me last year. And that's just a firsthand experience how senior leaders can inspire just by their words and their actions, mostly by their actions, not even their words, right? But those few words meant so much to me that it made me want to keep going, because you're inspiring senior leaders to do better than they've already done. They've already accomplished so much. And then to the other point, before I take some other inputs, I talked about taking yourself out of it. But when we think about this acronym TEAM, gentlemen, I want you to understand this. Team is that old adage, together everyone achieves more. There's always this one smart ass that said there's a me in team. No, there's not. The E comes before everybody before me. You have to be selfless, not selfish. What else did you take away?
Well, that's from a leadership perspective and a project management perspective. It kind of broke it down to where people can, or audience can understand that you can take everyday situations and apply it to the craft. Say it like that. Those issues are not just organic with just the craft. They are bigger entities that affect everyday's life. And taking the stories of masonry and the liturgy of the Bible and putting those two together, you create clarity. Once you create that clarity, everybody actually gets that vision along with that management. And then, that's how things organically from your local level grow. At the local level, if you have transparency, vision, and clarity, you literally have the three things that you need to grow your organization.
That's true. I appreciate that. Brother Smith, I'm going to put you on the spot because you just came into Royal Arch Masonry. What has been your experience so far? Because you're relatively new to the order. And based on the leadership that you have and you've seen, what's your experience so far?
Sorry about that, guys. I've been listening, man. I'm at a little birthday party, but so far, It's been great. I mean, it's different for me, but again, it feels like I'm being challenged, so it's greatly appreciated. It's just different from the other bodies. So that's really my take so far.
No, I appreciate it. All right. What other brother? We got a few brothers on here. I see my man Dr. Robinson on here. Appreciate you jumping on, sir. Mr. Beckman, Mr. Coleman, you guys jumped on a little bit afterwards. iPhone, I don't know who that is, but what are you guys taking away from whatever piece that you've seen of this? Because there should be 1 or 2 takeaways. I really believe that any lecture you sit in, if you don't take 1 or 2 powerful things away, you got nothing out of it. It's like reading a book. If you don't remember what you read, you wasted your time.
Dr. Randall, this is Brother Cummings.
How you doing, sir?
How are you doing? I was going to say, there's so much going here. I got to put this in perspective. Myself, I've been a supervisor on the railroad, and I've been a workshop master probably 5 or 6 times. The thing is that through the leadership of being a workshop master and being a manager position in the railroad, they kind of work hand in hand, like you were saying, in a sense, but you have to distinguish the two from each other. Since I've been involved in masonry, I've always been in this leadership position. It's the craziest thing. I don't look for it, but the way I guess I carry myself, a lot of people prefer me to be in leadership. But I take away from this podcast today, some good stuff here, is the fact that, and I tell people all the time, hey, just because I'm a from master or a high priest or whatever it may be, that's just a title. I'm still here working. I'm still learning like you are, right? This is not a project, but a process, something that will take your life to learn because you're constantly learning every day. If you really hit the rituals and do a lot of research, I'm telling you, you start learning stuff more and more and more that some of our ritualistic stuff does not cover. So I always tell people, hey, me being the leader, you don't work for me, I work for you. I'm trying to help you uh, learn more and get to the point or the level I am because I mean, I might strike a nerve here, but in the organization, we got a lot of title chasers. I really don't care about that myself. But the thing is that you have to, once you do become a pass, you still have to go in your organization, in your different houses and work. You still have to work with these children. You still have to keep them encouraged. You still have to educate them. Your love for the crowd, you still have to share that. It's just like you get the sash or the collarette and go home. You still have to be involved. And like I say, I got a lot here, but I'm not going to take up too much of your time, but a great podcast. And once you put it out, I'll be able to share it with my chapter. Thank you.
No, I appreciate it, man, and appreciate you, man, for always showing up, always being just approachable. I think that goes under the radar. People don't understand that just being approachable as a leader sometimes is 90% of the battle. And so I appreciate you. All the conversations we've had, every time I approach you, you were just always humble. Like we talk about leaders being humble and never cocky and boastful. And I've seen you grow, and I've watched you grow probably in the last 5 or 6 years. So I appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody else, brothers? Again, it's a lot to unpack. It really is a lot to unpack because we're talking about behavioral organization and management within raw arch masonry. And remember, we use this from an organizational academic perspective to bring it all home. So it wasn't your traditional understanding of a Masonic lecture, but it was more of a fundamental organizational understanding of a Masonic lecture. So as you think about what we talked about today, what are some of the takeaways from today?
Actually, it's a good tie-in. So specifically about roll arch masonry and the introductory to it. Actually, today's exercise was about roll arch masonry because you have to actually work in the temple to get to that higher level of understanding, right?
Of course.
So, yeah, what was done today was roll arch masonry, and it says just life. Once you understand the lessons in life are basically within the pages of the books that you have within your hands, you literally have the whole world.
I agree. On the 6th hour, the 6th day of the week, right? We labored, and then we were paid our wages. So we definitely tried to earn some wages today. So hear from a couple more brothers. What are you guys taking away? Again, I know it's a lot to unpack, and I hate to drop the bombshell on you on Sunday and be that guy, but I think we have to get outside the traditional means of education to make this stuff realistic, because we all have real lives. Like Mr. Cummings was saying, being a leader in the railroad industry, being a leader in what our motorcycle clubs as a vice president or whatever the case is, it doesn't matter. These are all different organizations that operate under the same auspices to achieve one goal. I said it earlier. You can't have sight without vision. And let me ask you guys this. You guys will give the rest of your inputs, but how many of you put a vision statement in your trestle boards? And be honest, how many have you put, I've seen it locally, and I was very impressed by it. But how many of you put a vision statement and or a mission statement in your trestle boards?
Every time.
Every time.
And it also put that mission statement in your souvenir jar.
There you go. Right, because you can't have vision, or you can't have sight without vision. And the mission is where we want to be. The vision is where we want to be. The mission is how we get there. So you got to have both. You should have both, a mission statement and a vision statement. But leaders, why are we not thinking about those things? We always think about things and we open the ritual and it has to be very, very black and white, very squares and circles. No, it's not that way. Leadership is not linear. It's not a straight shot. And it's damn sure not a ABC 1, 2, 3 or cookie cutter for every situation. Leadership is not linear. So we have to think outside the box to grow our organizations. So again, if you haven't done it, like Mr. Maxwell and others that I've seen, think about that as you're taking these positions. Put a mission statement, come up with a mission statement and a vision statement, and drive your organizations to that. Because what is it going to do? It's going to build the strong culture within your organizations to reinforce the ritualistic work, to reinforce the mentorship, to reinforce our chapter's outlook and our financial outlook. And I know it sounds crazy, but all of these things work together. So what else? 'Cause we're hitting some high points now. I hope y'all taking notes. If not, go back and look at it on YouTube. Maybe it was too much for one day. I get it. What else are y'all taking away?
Dr. Randall, this is Companion Ward. I think that I always think about this, but I think we're at a railroad where we're stuck between seasoned brothers, and most seasoned brothers, to be honest, are stuck in their ways and their traditions and their way that they feel like it should operate, versus we're trying to get the youth involved. And doing that is really, unfortunately, it's two different ends of the spectrum. So I think as leaders, we kind of have to figure out how to humble yourself as regards to what you're trying to do and kind of be versatile, and try to figure out how do you tap into the youth, because, at the end of the day, we're trying to get youth to continue the organization to grow. But a lot of times we can get stuck on, traditions and the seasoned brothers. And yes, they do have the great, they do have great knowledge. They do have great wisdom when it comes, when it comes to the organization. At the same time, we do have to understand that we have a different group of individuals that we're trying to tap into.
I got you. Appreciate you, Brother Terry and Brother Ward, especially for that. That's the constant fight. But I want everybody to understand this. Let me give you the broad perspective on that statement by Companion Ward, Arch and High Priest Ward. Masonry is it's very broad strokes. But understand this, brothers. I came into Masonry, and it seems like yesterday, but it's almost 20 years ago I came into Masonry. And some of you have been on longer, some of you have been on shorter, and that's fine. But I can remember coming in, and brothers didn't have, they weren't advanced educated like they are now, or have understandings like they have now. And they didn't really go online a lot like they did now. So brothers have access, what I'm saying, to more information than we did 20, 30, 40 years ago. So we have to value that piece as well. But we also have to value the piece of masonry from our first generation that was taught masonry. Because I think we can do masonry, but when you're taught masonry, it hits a little different. Because if you think about it, in the 14th century, they couldn't read or write. So how did they learn masonry? They learned masonry through symbolism. So it hit differently for them. That's why I'm saying that. And so we can learn from those lessons that they put themselves through and that they went through, just like in the 60s, or just like from slavery. Each generation, we took something from the previous generation to get better. All right, so this generation is going to take something from the next generation. It's an evolutionary process because leadership is evolutionary, not revolutionary. We have to evolve as leaders. It doesn't happen overnight and it's not organic, but we have to be respectful to who came before us. And we also have to remember those words we always utter to try to sound cool in masonry, from which came you. We have to remember those words, what they actually mean. It says, from the laws of Holy St. John to Jerusalem, what came here to do, to learn to subdue my passion and improve myself in masonry. That's taking from what came before me, implementing it today, and then paying it forward. So thank you, Ward. I appreciate you.
Dr. Randall, can you hear me?
Oh yeah, for sure. I was waiting for you to give me that love. What's up, Trey?
I like what you did in the very beginning. You was talking And you know how everybody was engaged because we didn't see not one slide and nobody said nothing. We was paying attention. That means everything you was saying we was listening to. And that's what we don't do anymore. We don't listen to each other. If you say something or do something that somebody else don't like, you think the world gonna come to an end. Well, we always did it that way. Well, that doesn't work anymore. You know, you gotta start looking at different things and talking to different people. You know, when you and I met, you know, we hit it all right from the jump, you know, because we thought the same way. How can we improve this thing? And one thing being a leader is I wanted to be better for the person coming behind me because I don't want you to go through the nonsense I had to go through. Good lecture, sir. It's always a pleasure.
Appreciate you, man. Let me digress for a little bit, Trey. Always appreciation. I'll give you guys some inputs on Trey. Mr. Blunt, I got your email now. Add your brother to the distro list. So I got you, sir. I don't want you to think I was ignoring you. Yeah, he's right, Trey. I remember going to your session and remembering being inspired. It was your first session where all the Yorkite came together, and I remember how stressed you were about it, and obviously so because it was new. But I remember taking that back myself and the Grand High Priest, bringing that back to California, now pushing, God willing, next year we'll be doing all of our Yorkite houses together. So I appreciate you always just inspiring. And you were inspiring and didn't even know you were inspiring. So brothers and companions alike, take away from, leaders should inspire you. They shouldn't have to tell you, I'm the leader. I said in the leadership retreat last week, and there was a lot of people in that room in leadership positions saying, well, people should do stuff because I'm the leader. And it made me nauseous. It made me freaking nauseous to hear a leader have to say that they're the leader is BS. If you have to say you're the leader, you've lost everybody in that room and everybody that works for you or with you. You should never have to say you're the leader. Your moral compass should be true north all the time, and you should walk in the room. When I came into masonry, they say you shouldn't have to say you're a mason. Matter of fact, you shouldn't even have to wear any regalia, any rings or nothing. You should walk in the room and people should know you're different. And as a leader, if you walk in the room, when you walk in the room, you should command that room first and foremost by you just walking in that room. And that should be how you carry yourself, how you boost your organization to the next level. You don't need to say you're the freaking leader to be the leader. So I just wanted to kind of drive that point home. I know I got a little passionate, but that's just me. If you know me, you know how I am. What else? Trey, thank you, as always. We got a few more minutes before we wrap up. We like to keep it right within an hour. We
There's
don't want to go past hour.
I have one thing. There's a series that's on Amazon Prime called The Chosen, and it's a story about the life of Jesus Christ. It's like a few series with it, right? If you overlay that theatrical rendition of the life of Jesus with Masonic issues or just Masonic lessons, it'll give you a perspective visually what we, talk about in our meetings or what we, talk about in our lectures. They'll give you a different perspective on how to solve issues kind of today using those biblical parables, but just seeing it from a slightly different perspective that's relatable for today. So it's called The Chosen.
I agree with you. Leadership is timeless. Jesus had haters. King Solomon had haters. King Solomon had conflict. Hiram, king of Tyre, over some land. Again, most of us know that leadership is not a new or old strategy. It's a strategy. It's a process. It's not linear. Again, it's something that we have to take all the examples from. That's why I wanted today to be more of an academic understanding of the organizational behavior within Royal Arch Masonry and not a Masonic understanding, because we get the two confused, and then we go as far as we start calling we start calling characters Masonic characters. No, they're biblical characters, and there's biblical understanding and backing to Burley's point. So we just got to get away from the group think and how we think about things, because it's not ABC or 1, 2, 3. It's definitely different.
I would like to say I think sometimes in Masonry we force people to be leaders or force them in the position of leadership, knowing good and well that they're not leaders, and then we wonder why they fail and why the organization failed and why we set the organization back 4, 5, 6 years depending on the lineup, and then and then we act like it's their fault instead of our fault because we've seen it coming.
Yeah, no, that's a hell of a point. And think about this: we got guys that come in that can memorize the ritual, and we put them, just to your point, in leadership positions, but they don't have the skills, and then we never mentor them or prepare them for the next level. So whose fault is it that they fail? It's not theirs, it's ours, right? And I just want to read a quote that was in the chat, right? A leader is like a gardener. They don't force the flowers to grow. The flowers do that naturally. A leader's job is just to set the environment for growth, pull the weeds, enrich the soil first and last on deck. The success of the gardener is not how hard they work, rather the beauty of the flowers. Because we don't see flowers grow and manifest themselves overnight. But when they grow and they're beautiful, we should never take credit for it. We should just be in the background smiling. And leaders, and I've said this before, leaders need to lead from the back, not the front. Because when you're leading from the front, you never look back. If you're leading from the front, you don't see those flowers grow. But if you're leading from the back, you're humble enough to see those flowers grow and never take credit. Be part of that exclusive we and not the inclusive I. And then let me leave you with this last thing to take one more comment, right? Always grow. Always think about as a leader, you're going to fail. So always fail often, fail fast, and fail forward. Let your organization know it's okay to fail because that's how we grow. Don't be scared of failure. We're always scared of failure. We're going to fail. We're going to be ridiculed, but take that as an example to move forward. So one more comment and then we'll go into a prayer. And I appreciate all you guys giving up your time on Sunday. Thank you for the comment, Osanawa.
Dr. Randall.
Sir.
I guess I want to comment on what the one comment that one companion said, and it was true. Sometimes we do put bad people in office, but I look at it this way sometimes. All right, that said, we got an older brother. He's been in line 5-10 years, right? And if people want to knock him out, I was almost put in that situation. I'm not gonna knock you out, and here's why, y'all. If you was faithful and you stood in line all that time, that means the companions or the brothers, etc., put you there. Then it's our job to make sure that he gets through the best that he can, right? Because we all gonna get old one day, right? And you don't want nobody to put you out the patch unless it's time. And we sat there and put that person in line, and we knew they was bad, and the membership didn't vote them out, then I'm not gonna be the one to put them out. Because you know what everybody gonna say? That's messed up what Trey Ham did to that guy, right? That's all they're gonna remember. They're not gonna remember he was bad. They're gonna remember you putting him out. So I always tell everybody, if the members put them out, cool. But I'm not going to be the one to put them out. But that was a good comment that somebody made.
Absolutely.
Yep. Yep. And no, that's a hell of a point. And we have to think about those things. And we have to start looking outside the box. We have to get outside of our little boxes. We have to get away from our own egos. Let me say that again. We got to get away from our own egos, like Trey was talking about, because it's not about you. It's about the organization. And if you're not putting the organization first, you don't need to be on this call. I tell everybody that works for me and with me, all I need you to have is a quarter cup of gas, 1/4 cup of give a shit. If you come to work every day, whether that's in masonry or your actual job with just some give a crap, you know how much more effective you will be. You know how much easier and organically we will grow. So you guys have to start thinking bigger than just the ritual. The ritual is a book with a bunch of words, and we get into this parrot type masonry. And just like the brother was saying, our brother Beckham was saying earlier, we're putting people in positions of leadership, but they're not leaders. But we're calling them leaders and we're diminishing the credibility of our organization. So anyway, I digress. One more comment and I promise you a prayer because that comment just kind of sparked an interest.
Well, I came in on the end. My name is Kelly Coleman. I'm out of Michigan. Like companion Tram said, just thinking about the fact that that man that he was referring to comes to meetings. He's showing up. He's there. He's part of the craft. We have sat in the East or going to sit in the East or have sat in the East in multiple organizations. We know one thing and one thing only, that when we come out that chair, we go back into the craft.
That's a fact.
We go back into the craft. And our job then becomes to support that organization to the best of our ability. And that includes supporting that person who is sitting in that seat. We all know what it feels like to be over there. One thing, I'm a retired non-commissioned officer. And one thing that I never forgot, I retired at E7. I never forgot what it felt like to be an E1. And I sat there and I worked with my soldiers. And I had a plaque over my desk. And it said, leaders set the standards by example. And that's how I live my life. So that gentleman who's going over there, support him. Be that wise counseling whispering in his ear. Don't tell him what to do. Guide him. If you see something that's out of whack, put him back on the right track. Say, hey, maybe you may want to consider this. Don't try to take over, but be that wise counselor. And that's what I have to say, sir.
I appreciate you, and definitely appreciate the state of Michigan for jumping on today. But again, communities and brothers alike, I know a couple of you on here are just brothers, but we do these at a level where everybody should be able to understand them and take them back. So we appreciate the brothers that were on here today, the companions that were on here today. We're going to bow our heads and agree in prayer because, again, we're going to be conscientious of your time. Let's bow our heads and I'll close this out in prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the words that were said today. Father, we thank you for just the synergy and the brothers and companions that were here today, and that may each person take one person back to their subordinate organizations, and that their organizations continue to manifest growth from just a fundamental understanding of what was discussed here. Father, endow and bless every family that's represented here. Subdue every discord and passion within them, discord and understanding or grievance or health issues. Father, bless every family that's represented here. In your son's precious name we pray. Amen.
Man, man, man. And that's
Amen.
going to be great lecture, sir.
Man.